Good morning. Welcome back to our science class of class 8th. Now today we are going to discuss about the chapter number 10 that I have already completed the first part of that chapter. This is the second part of this chapter. So in first part I have completed the certain topics. That's I have told you about the role of the hormones in initiating the reproductive function. As I have told you that hormones plays an important role in initiating the reproductive functions of adolescents. I have told you that what are adolescents. Adolescence is a transitional stage between the adulthood and childhood. So these hormones plays very important role in initiating the reproductive function of the adolescents, and this is because that the changes that occurs at adolescence are controlled by the hormones. So whatever the changes that occurs in adolescence, all are under the control of the hormones, or in other words we can say that onset of the puberty is controlled by the hormones. Puberty begins with sudden increase in the production of hormones in the body, which cause number of changes in boys and girls. As we have already studied that testes and ovaries are the rare reproductive organs in humans. The testes and ovaries produce the sex cells, or we can say the gametes, sperms, eggs or ova. In addition to producing gametes like sperms and eggs, the testes and ovaries also produce the sex hormones, which bring about the changes in the bodies of the boys and girls at puberty and make their reproductive system functional. So these things that we have already discussed in a previous part of this chapter. Now today we are going to study about some of the topics, like the topics that we are going to discuss today are reproductive phase of life in human. So today we are going to talk about this. So let's know about that. What is the reproductive phase of life in human? Reproductive phase of life in humans. Adolescence becomes capable of reproduction at puberty, when their testes and ovaries begins to produce gametes. When the testes and the ovaries of the male and female begin to produce gametes like sperms and eggs, they become capable of reproduction. So the adolescent boys grow and become men, and adolescent girls grow and become women. In men, the capacity to produce the male gametes, or we can say the gametes, usually last throughout the life. Means the capacity of production of gametes in case of male is usually lasts throughout the life, but what happens in case of women, the capacity to produce the female gametes, or we can say the eggs or ova, last only up to about 45 to 50 years of age. Due to this, the reproductive phase of life in men or males last much longer than in women or females. So we will now, this is about the reproductive phase in case of male and the reproductive phase in case of female. In females, the reproductive phase of life begins at puberty, 10 to 12 years of age, and generally lasts till the age approximately 45 to 50 years. So the beginning of the reproductive phase in the life of the female is about 10 to 12 years, and it generally lasts at the age of approximately 45 to 50 years. So with the onset of the puberty, the eggs or the ova begin to mature in the ovaries of a woman, and one mature egg, or we can say ovum, is released by one of the ovaries of the woman once in about 28 to 30 days. This release of egg by one of the ovaries of the woman once in about 20 to 30 days is commonly known as ovulation. During this period, the inner lining of the uterus grows and becomes thick and spongy and prepares itself to receive the fertilized egg. So in case of fertilization of egg cell occurs by the sperm, the fertilized egg begins to divide to form an embryo. So further division takes place in that fertilized egg, and it results in the formation of embryo, and that embryo gets embedded in the thick uterus lining, and this results in pregnancy and ultimately leads to the birth of the baby. If the fertilization does not occur, then in that case, due to the lack of sperm, the egg released by the ovaries dies within few days, and the thick lining breaks down because no longer required, and since the thick uterus lining contains lot of blood vessels, and therefore the breaking down or disintegration of uterus lining produces blood along with other tissues. This blood and other tissues come out of vagina of woman in the form of bleeding, and the bleeding from the uterus, which occurs in woman or a mature girl every month if the egg cell has not been fertilized, and it is known as menstrual flow or menstruation. So we are going to talk about the menstruation. I am going to tell you about that what happens during this stage. Now the next topic is menstruation. Menstruation occurs every 28 to 30 days because the ovulation or release of egg or ovum by the ovary of woman occurs after 28 to 30 days. So in everyday language, menstruation is monthly periods or just periods, and it is also called menstruations or periods, usually last for about 3 to 5 days in a month. So the first menstruation or the menstrual flow begins at puberty when the girl or woman is around 10 to 12 years of age. The first occurrence of menstruation or periods at puberty is called menarche, and menarche is the beginning of the reproductive life of a girl. Now we are going to talk about that what is menarche, what is menopause. Now the next topic is menarche. So I have already told you that first occurrence of menstruation or period at puberty is commonly known as menarche. Menarche is the beginning of reproductive life of a girl, or in other words we can say that menarche is the time from which a girl or woman becomes capable of having a baby. So the menstruation stops temporarily when the woman becomes pregnant, or menstruation restarts after the birth of baby. Menstruation stops permanently when the woman reaches the age of about 45 to 50 years. So this is the age at which the menstruation permanently stops, and the permanent stoppage of the menstruation of woman loses her ability to bear the children, and this permanent stoppage of menstruation is commonly known as menopause. So I have told you about that what is menarche and what is menopause. So we can say that the first occurrence of the menstruation or period at puberty is commonly known as menarche, and it begins at the puberty when the girl or the woman is around the age of 10 to 12 years, and we can say that the permanent stoppage of the menstruation or periods in women is commonly known as menopause, and menopause occurs in women at the age of 45 to 50 years. So the woman stops ovulating at menopause and can no longer become pregnant. Menopause is the end of the reproductive life of a woman. So we can say that menopause is the end of the reproductive life of a woman. The reproductive life of a woman starts at menarche and it ends at menopause. So the starting of the reproductive phase in case of woman is at menarche and its end at menopause. So this is about the menarche and menopause. Now we are going to talk about the chromosomes. So the chromosomes are mainly found in nucleus of each and every cell of a human body. We have already discussed about the chromosome in our previous chapter. Chromosomes, that we are knowing that it contains the genes, and the genes are arranged linearly on it, and the genes are the unit of heredity because they carry the hereditary characters from the parents to the offsprings. So all the human beings have the 23 pairs of chromosome in the nuclei of their normal body cells. So there are 23 pairs of chromosomes in the nuclei of the normal body cells. And out of that 23 pairs of chromosome, one pair of chromosome or two chromosomes are the sex chromosome. So out of that 23 pairs of chromosome, one pair of chromosome, or we can say two chromosomes, are the sex chromosome, and that two chromosomes that determines the sex of the offspring. Why they are known as sex chromosome? Because they used to determine the sex of the offspring or baby. So that's why we can say that they are the sex chromosome. So the two sex chromosomes are named as X chromosome and Y chromosome. So the gametes or the sex cells are not normal body cells. They are special cells or the reproductive cells. Gametes contains 23 single chromosomes. Hence they have only one of the two sex chromosome, X or Y, and they exist in normal body cells. In females or women, all the gametes or all the X cells contains X chromosome. In case of female, all the X cell or all the gametes contains only X chromosome. So the female or the woman have no Y chromosome in their gametes. So the females do not have any Y chromosome in their gametes or X cells or ova. On the other hand, in case of men, the half of the gametes, or we can say the sperms, have X chromosome, and half of the gametes or the sperm have the Y chromosome. So the baby developed from XX combination of the sex chromosome in zygote is a girl, and the baby that develops from the XY combination of sex chromosome in zygote will be a boy. That we are going to discuss about this in this chapter later on. About the sex of a child depends on what happens at fertilization. So later on we are going to discuss about this and how the sex of the baby is determined. So this is about the chromosome that is found in the nuclei of their normal body cells, and there are two types of sex chromosome, X chromosome and Y chromosome. So the humans normally have the 23 pairs of the chromosome, and out of that 23 pairs of chromosome, one pair of chromosome is the sex chromosome, that is named as X chromosome and Y chromosome. So I have told you about that chromosomes. So these the chromosome, how we can define that? These instructions are present in a thread-like structure called chromosome. Inside the fertilized egg or zygote there is an instruction for determining the sex of a baby, and this instruction that is present in it like a thread, that is commonly a thread-like structure, and that is commonly known as chromosome. And these chromosomes are present inside the nucleus of every cell, and all the humans have 23 pairs of chromosome in the nuclei of their cell. So this is about the chromosome. I have already told you about that, the sex chromosome. So the two chromosome out of 23 pairs of chromosomes are the sex chromosome, and these are usually named as X and Y. So the female have two X chromosomes only, and the male in which half of the gametes contains X chromosome and half of the gametes contains Y chromosome. So the male have both X and Y chromosome, but the female have only one X chromosomes. So the chromosomes in eggs and sperms. So we can see that the gametes or the egg have only one set of chromosome, that is X chromosome. So the unfertilized eggs always have one X chromosome, and in case of a sperm we can say that it contains two types of chromosomes, X chromosome and another is a Y chromosome. Now development into a boy and girl. Now we are going to determine that how the zygote develops into a boy, how the further development takes place in the zygote and it becomes finally converted into a boy or into a girl. So we are going to discuss about that, how the sex of the baby is determined. So when a woman gives birth to a baby, it can be a boy or it can be a girl. So the sex of the baby can be born is decided at the moment that the egg of the woman or mother gets fertilized by the sperm father, and the pregnancy occurs. I have already discussed in the first part about the fertilization. I have told you that the fusion of male gamete and the female gamete is commonly known as fertilization, and that fertilization results in the formation of zygote, and further division takes place in the zygote, and then it gets converted into embryo and finally gets converted into the and that embryo gets embedded into the uterus, and there further development takes place and it gets converted into fetus, and then finally it develops into a mature baby. So this is about the fertilization that we have previously discussed in a previous part. So the sex of the baby is determined by the type of the sex chromosome present in the fertilized egg. So how the sex of the baby is determined? It is mainly determined by the type of the sex chromosome that is present in the fertilized zygote, or we can fertilized egg, or we can say zygote. So whatever the type of the sex chromosome that is present in that fertilized zygote that results after the fusion of male and female gametes, that mainly determines the sex of a baby. So there are two types of sex chromosome. I have told you, X chromosome and Y chromosome. So the female have only X chromosome in all her gametes called X or ova. This means that all the female gametes have the X have only X chromosome, or the male or the father have the X chromosome as well as the Y chromosome in the male gametes called sperms. Actually the half male gamete or the sperm have the X chromosome, and the other half of the male gamete of the sperm have the Y chromosome. So we are going to know that how the sex of the baby depends on what happens at fertilization. So what happens during the fertilization, we are going to talk about that. If the sperm carrying X chromosome fertilizes an egg cell, if a sperm containing X chromosome fertilizes an egg cell or ovum which carries the X chromosome, then the zygote is formed which will have XX combination of the sex chromosome, and due to which the child born will be a girl or female. And the second case that occurs here is if the sperm carrying Y chromosome fertilizes the egg or ovum which carries the X chromosome, then the zygote is formed which will have X and Y chromosome of the sex chromosome, and due to which the child born will be the boy or male. Thus, the sex of the unborn child depends on whether the zygote formed at the time of fertilization have the XX chromosome, XX combination of the sex chromosome, or XY combination of the sex chromosome. So XX combination of the sex chromosome makes the child a girl, whereas XY chromosome of a combination of sex chromosome makes a child boy. So it is the sperm of a man which determines the sex of a child. So we can say that it is the sperm of the man which determines the sex of a child, and this is because that the half of the sperm have the X chromosome and half of the sperm have the Y chromosome. So the male have both X and Y chromosome, but the female gametes only contains X chromosome. So there is a 50% chance of a boy and 50% chance of a girl being born to the parents. So this is why we can say that there 50% chance of a boy and 50% chance of a girl being born to the parents, and that's why the human population is roughly half males and half females. So the X or the ova of woman cannot decide the sex of the child because all the X cells or contains the same sex chromosome, that is X chromosome. So the X cell, or we can say the ova of the woman, cannot decide the sex of the child. The sex of the child is only decided by the type of the chromosome that the sperms contains, because the male only have the half of the gamete of the male, means sperms containing male gametes contains X chromosome and half gametes contains the Y chromosome. So it can only be decided by the type of the chromosome that is contained by the sperms of the male. It cannot be decided by the so the sex of the child cannot be decided by the egg cell or the ova, because it contains the same sex chromosome, that is X chromosome. So from this we will get the conclusion that if the father contributes X chromosome at the fertilization through the sperm, the baby born will be girl. On the other hand, if the father contributes Y chromosomes at fertilization through this sperm, then the baby born will be a boy. So this means that the sex chromosomes contributed by the male, which decides the sex of the baby which the mother will give birth to. Thus the father or the man is responsible for the sex of the baby which will born. So this is about that how we are able to determine the sex of a baby or sex of a child. So this is the diagram that is given to you, that shows that how the fertilization takes place between the male gamete and the female gamete, and it results in the formation of zygote. And this diagram shows you that the male having the X and Y chromosome, it contains both sex chromosome X and Y, while the female egg contains only X chromosome. That is shown to you in this given diagram. Now we are going to talk about the disease like goiter and diabetes. As we are knowing that thyroid gland is present in our neck, and that thyroid gland mainly secretes a hormone, and that hormone is commonly known as thyroxine. And due to the less secretion of this thyroxine hormone through the thyroid gland, this results in a disease, and that disease is commonly known as goiter. So that is mainly due to the less secretion of the thyroxine hormone through the thyroid gland. And the next is about the diabetes. Now we are going to talk about the diabetes and how this disease is caused in human beings. So here what happens that the pancreas is a type of gland that is present in our body, and that pancreas work is to secrete the insulin hormone. So if that pancreas is not working properly and there is less secretion of this insulin hormone in the blood, then it results into a disease, and that disease is known as diabetes. So the diabetes occurs due to the less secretion of insulin, and the goiter mainly occurs is due to the less secretion of the thyroxine hormone through the thyroid gland. Now about the adrenal glands and about the growth hormones. Now we are going to talk about that. What is the role of the adrenal glands and what is the role of the growth hormones? So firstly we will talk about that adrenal glands, where they are found. Adrenal glands are the examples of the endocrine glands. Endocrine glands, I have told you that these are the ductless glands because they do not have any kind of duct. So they release their secretion directly into the blood. So this is one of the example of the endocrine glands. And there are two adrenal glands in our body which is located at the top of the two kidneys. The adrenal glands produce a type of hormone, and that type of hormone is commonly known as adrenaline, and this adrenaline hormone prepares our body to function at maximum efficiency during emergency situations like danger, fear, shock, surprise, anger, excitement. And this happens as like this: when we face a dangerous situations like being chased by the ferocious dog, then the adrenal gland secretes more adrenaline hormone into our blood, and this adrenaline hormone speeds up the heartbeat and increases the breathing rate and raises the blood pressure and causes the liver to secrete more stored glucose into the blood. All these actions of adrenaline hormone produce a lots of energy in our body very quickly, and this energy helps us to run away very fast from the boy and save ourselves. So we can say that this adrenaline hormone that is mainly secreted by the adrenal glands works like this way. So in this way the adrenaline hormones prepares our body to function the maximum efficiency during the emergency situation or being chased by the ferocious dog. And it is also the adrenaline hormone which prepares our body to fight an enemy by producing a lot of energy in a very short time. A lot of adrenaline hormone is secreted by the adrenal glands, which when we are angry or excited. So when we are angry or excited, the lots of adrenaline hormone is secreted by the adrenaline glands. So rapid output of the energy thus cause that help us to cope with these extreme emotional situations. So this adrenaline hormone is mainly used to control the extreme emotional situations. Adrenal glands also produce and secretes another hormone that is commonly known as aldosterone, and this aldosterone hormone secreted by the adrenal glands, their work is to maintain the correct salt balance in the blood. So this is another type of hormone that is secreted by the adrenal glands. The name of that hormone is aldosterone, and their main function is to maintain the salt balance in the blood. So I have told you about that adrenal glands, where the adrenal glands are found and what are the functions of the adrenal glands and which type of hormone is secreted by the adrenal glands. Now we are going to talk about the growth hormone. As we are knowing that the thyroid gland secretes the thyroxine hormones, and the thyroid and the adrenal secretes their hormones when they receive the orders from the pituitary through its hormones. All these hormone secretion are under the control of the hormone that is secreted by the pituitary gland. So that's why pituitary gland is also known as the master gland of our body, because it is known as the master gland because it controls the secretion of all the types of the hormones that is secreted by all the kinds of the endocrine glands. So these all are under the control of the pituitary gland. So that's why pituitary gland is commonly known as the master gland. Pituitary gland secretes the growth hormone which is necessary for the normal growth of the person. So this pituitary gland is also responsible for the normal growth of the person because it secretes a type of hormone that regulates the control of the growth in humans. Now about the metamorphosis. In our previous chapter we have already talked about the metamorphosis. So today we are going to talk about that metamorphosis in case of frog. As we have earlier studied the life history of the frog, and in a frog the tadpole, or we can say the larva, is hatched from the eggs and it passes through the different stages to become a frog. So the change from the tadpole, or we can say larva, to the adult frog is commonly known as metamorphosis. In a frog the metamorphosis is brought by the thyroxine hormone. That thyroxine hormone is secreted by the thyroid gland, and the production of this thyroxine hormones require the presence of iodine in water, and the presence of iodine is very important for the secretion of the thyroxine from the thyroid gland. So if the pond water in which the tadpoles are growing does not contain sufficient iodine to make enough thyroxine hormone, there will be the deficiency of thyroxine hormone, and due to which the tadpoles cannot undergo the metamorphosis and hence cannot become adults. So in the absence of thyroxine hormones, this metamorphosis does not take place in frog, and it cannot become an adult frog. So this thyroxine hormone is very important for the metamorphosis in frogs. And it is not only in case of frogs that requires the thyroxine hormone to complete their life cycle, but all the amphibians need the thyroxine hormone in order to undergo the metamorphosis and change from larva to adult. So this is about the metamorphosis. I have told you that what are the requirements for the metamorphosis in case of frog. So this thyroxine hormone is very important for the metamorphosis in case of frog, and not only in case of frogs, all the amphibians needs this thyroxine hormones to undergo the metamorphosis to change from larva to the adults. Now the role of hormones in completing the life history of the insects in case of frog, that I have already discussed that in the previous slide, that I have told you that this metamorphosis are under the control of the thyroxine hormone that is secreted by the thyroid gland of the frog, and that secretion requires the presence of iodine in the blood. If there is no presence of iodine in the water, so pond water, if there is no iodine, then there is no secretion of this thyroxine hormone through the thyroid gland, and due to this absence of the thyroxine hormone, this larva does not becomes changes into adult. So this metamorphosis not occurs in the absence of this thyroxine hormone. So iodine is very important. The presence of the iodine is very important in water in order to release this thyroxine hormones through the thyroid gland of the frog. Now reproductive health. Now we are going to talk about that reproductive health. So let's know that what are the requirements and how the adolescents are able to make their body fit. So these things that we are going to discuss in this chapter one by one. So reproductive health, according to WHO, that is known as World Health Organization, the reproductive health is being defined as a state of physical, mental and social well-being of a person in all matters related to the reproductive system at all the stages of the life. So this reproductive health is defined as a state of mental, physical and social well-being of a person. Though the reproductive health is required at all the stages of life, but it is more essential during the periods of adolescence when the body is growing rapidly and many changes takes place in it. So some of the conditions that is used to maintain the good reproductive health during the adolescence are it is necessary to eat the balanced diet during adolescence. Second is, it is necessary to maintain the personal hygiene during adolescence. Third is, it is necessary to take adequate physical exercise during adolescence. Fourth is, it is necessary to avoid taking any drugs during this adolescence stage. So these are the things that are important to maintain the good reproductive health during the adolescence. So I have told you about this. Now, nutritional needs of the adolescents. Now we are going to talk about that. What are the nutritions that is required by the adolescents in order to keep their body healthy and fit. So the food that we eat each day that makes up our diet. The diet contains many food items. For example, cereal, grains like wheat, rice, pulses, vegetables, meat, fish, eggs, milk, etc. The diet which contains correct amount of all the constituents like carbohydrates, fats, proteins, vitamins, minerals, sufficient for the normal growth of the development of the body and that keeps a person healthy is commonly known as balanced diet. So the diet that contains proper amount of carbohydrates, proteins, fats, vitamins, minerals and that is sufficient for the normal growth and development of the body is commonly known as balanced diet. So to take the balanced diet is very important for the adolescents. Every human being at any age needs to have the balanced diet to keep their body healthy. It all more important to eat the balanced diet containing right kinds of foods during the adolescence because there is a rapid growth or rapid development takes place during this period. And to take the balanced diet is very important during this adolescent stage because there is a rapid growth or rapid development takes place during this stage. And the balanced diet helps the bones, muscles and other parts of the body to get the adequate nourishment that is required for the rapid growth. So why it is important to take the balanced diet? It is important to take the balanced diet because it makes our bones strong, muscles strong and other parts of the body gets the nourishment that is required for the rapid growth. So various types of food items we should include in our diet of the adolescents so that to meet the nutritional needs. So whatever the diets that they should include. The diet of the adolescent should include food items made from cereals like wheat and rice which provide the carbohydrate and that carbohydrate provides the energy. The food items like chapati, bread and other items like cooked rice and that provides the carbohydrate. Sugar and jaggery also contains the carbohydrates that gives the sufficient energy to their body. Second is the diet of the adolescent should include the fats which also gives us energy. The common food items which can be included in the diet for providing the fat to our body are butter, ghee, cooking oils, groundnut oil, mustard oil, sunflower oil, coconut oil, vanaspati ghee, groundnut fatty meat. So these are the things that contains the sufficient amount of fat, and that is also required to give the sufficient amount of energy to their bodies. The diets also includes food items containing proteins that is required for the proper growth of their body. So the common food items that contains lots of protein are as follows, like pulses, peas, beans, cheese, eggs, milk, fish, groundnuts. So these are the certain food items that contains the sufficient amount of proteins that is required for the proper growth of their body. So the diet of the adolescents includes fruits and vegetables also, which provide many vitamins, minerals that is necessary for keeping the good health. Fruits, vegetables are the protective food because they protect our body from many elements by supplying the various vitamins and minerals, and that help us to stay healthy. For example, citrus fruits like orange, or we can say lemon, contains vitamin C, which builds up our body resistance and help us to fight against the infection. Carrots containing vitamin A, which is necessary for keeping the healthy eyesight. Iron is a mineral which is necessary for making the blood in the body. Iron rich foods such as leafy vegetables, jaggery, these are the good for the adolescents as they help in making the blood. Milk contains lot of calcium mineral which is necessary for making the healthy bones of growing adolescents. So these are the certain nutritional requirements for the adolescent, and they should take this balanced diet in order to keep their body fit and healthy. Now about the balanced diet that I have already told you, I have told you that what are the things that are required in their diet in order to keep the adolescent's body healthy and fit. So I have told you that carbohydrates containing food, proteins rich food, fat rich food, minerals are also required for their body. So these are the requirements for their body, and that keeps their body healthy. I have told you that what is balanced diet, the diet that contains proper amount of proper amount of all the nutrients like carbohydrates, fats, proteins, vitamins, minerals, and that is sufficient for the normal growth and development of the body, and that keeps a person body healthy is commonly known as balanced diet. And this balanced diet is very important for the adolescents, because adolescence is that stage when there is a rapid growth development takes place in their body. So these balanced diet, to take the balanced diet is very important during this life stage. Now there are certain points to be remembered here. So there are certain food items like chips and packed tinned snacks, though they are very tasty and they should never replace the regular meals as they do not have adequate nutritional values. So avoid these fast foods, avoid these chips and packed snacks. They are very tasty but they do not contain any kind of nutritional value you will get it from that. So just avoid to eat all these kinds of food items because they do not give any kind of vitamins, minerals. They do not give any kind of energy to your body. So just avoid to eat all these things because these things are not good for the health. Now personal hygiene. Now we are going to talk about the personal hygiene. Personal hygiene means keeping our body clean. Keeping our body clean is commonly known as personal hygiene. And the maintenance of personal hygiene or cleanliness is necessary for the adolescents for preventing the disease and keeping the good health. So the adolescents maintain the personal hygiene by adopting these practices, like adolescents, boys and girls should take the bath regularly at least once every day. Though having bath is a good for everyone, and it is more necessary for the adolescents or teenagers because they increase the activity of the sweat glands or oil glands, or sometimes makes the body smelly. Bathing removes the sweat and oils and dirt and cleans the body. During bathing, all the parts of the body should be washed and cleaned every day. Second is, adolescent girls take special care of cleanliness of the bodies during the time of menstrual flow or periods. The girls should keep a track of their menstrual cycle and be prepared for the onset of the menstruation. So if the personal hygiene is not maintained by the adolescents, girls or boys, then there are the chances of catching the bacterial infection. So it is very important that they should take care of their personal hygiene. And when they should not take care of their personal hygiene, then in that case these infections can make the person ill and spoil the good health. So this is about the personal hygiene I have told you. Now the next important thing is for the adolescents is the physical exercise. Physical exercise means it is a type of activity requiring the physical effort and which is carried out for the sake of the health and fitness. All the adolescents, boys and girls, should do the physical exercise such as brisk walking, jogging, running, swimming, cycling, dancing, playing outdoor games like hockey, football, badminton, basketball, or any other type of exercise regularly. So the regular physical exercise have the following beneficial effects. Regular exercise in fresh air keeps the body fit. Regular physical exercise also improves the mental health. Physical exercise protects a person from heart disease, high blood pressure, diabetes. And physical exercise builds and maintains the healthy muscles, bones and joints. Physical exercise increases our efficiency in studies, sports and work. Physical exercise improves the general sense of well-being and makes a person feel happier. So these are the certain beneficial effects of the physical exercise. So it is very important that adolescents should do the physical exercise regularly in order to keep their body healthy and fit. Now say no to the drugs. So we are just firstly know that what are drugs. Drugs are the chemical substances which when taken into the body change the functions of the body. They influence the mind and sometimes even change the behavior of person. So these are the chemicals which when taken into the body, it causes the certain changes in the body, it influences the mind and sometimes even change the behavior of the person. Some of the examples of the drugs are, for example, paracetamol, penicillin, alcohol, heroin. So these are the certain examples of the drugs. The drugs can be swallowed, inhaled or injected into the body. So the adolescence is a period when much activity of the body and mind of the young boys and girls, and sometimes what happens that adolescents, boys or girls undergoes the emotional swings such as feeling confused, insecure, bored, worried, stressed out, tense, angry, and we should not worry about these changes because these are the emotional swings are the normal part of the growing up process and disappears automatically with time. Somebody suggests that you will take relief from these confusion, tension, boredom, worries, feel better by taking some drugs. Just say no unless the drugs have been prescribed by the doctor. Say no to the drugs unless the drugs have been prescribed by the doctor. So drugs are very powerful chemical substances and they should be used only under the doctor's supervision. So the adolescents, boys and girls should avoid the drugs to maintain the physical, mental, social well-being which are necessary to live a purposeful, fruitful and satisfying life in this world. There are some harmful effects of taking the drugs that are as follows. First one is the drugs are addictive. If you take the drugs once, you feel taking them again and again, and soon the person feels that he or she cannot live without drugs and becoming a drug addict. So the person feels that they cannot live without drug. It means that they becomes drug addict. Drug addicts becomes irritable, lose the interest in their studies or jobs, and they may drop out of the school, college or lose the job. Drugs do physical harm to the body. Drugs can damage the brain, liver, lungs, kidney, and in this way the drugs drain the health and happiness. People taking the drugs run the risk of accidents because they get confused. sharing the syringes for injecting the drugs spreads a disease. The name of that disease is AIDS disease among the drug addicts. This is a very common types of disease that mainly occurs during the drugs addicts. The name of that disease is AIDS. So we are going to talk more about that. What is this kind of disease in this chapter later on. Now, HIV-Human Immuno Deficiency virus. This AIDS disease is mainly caused by this virus, and the name of that virus is Human Immunodeficiency virus. So this virus that is present in the blood of the AIDS patients, and this virus is mainly present in the blood of the AIDS patients. AIDS disease causing virus like HIV virus can easily be passed from the infected person to a healthy person by number of ways. The ways by which this AIDS virus, or we can say HIV virus, can pass from infected person to the healthy person by this way, by sharing the syringes using for the injecting the drugs. If the drug addict has a AIDS virus in his blood and he uses a syringe for injecting the drugs into his body, then the needle of this syringe will get contaminated with the AIDS virus. And when this syringe with the contaminated needle is then used by a healthy person for injecting the drugs, the AIDS virus present on the injection needles enters into the blood, and in this way the healthy person injecting the drugs into his body will also get the AIDS disease. So this is one of the way by which this AIDS disease gets transmitted from the infected person to the healthy person. Next one is AIDS virus can also be transmitted to a healthy person through the sexual contact with a person infected with HIV. AIDS virus can be transmitted to an infant, a small baby, from the infected mother through her milk. And AIDS is mainly a sexually transmitted disease, and there is no cure of this AIDS disease. AIDS patients die easily even from simple disease, because the AIDS virus weakens the immunity of their body, and due to which their body cannot fight against the disease or the germs. So this is about the AIDS disease and about the type of virus that is responsible for causing this AIDS disease. I have told you about this. So students, today I have covered all the topics of this chapter. So whatever the exercises are there in this chapter, you must try to complete it yourself, and try to learn it also, revise all the topics, prepare the chapters, and complete your work on time. Thank you, students.